Hello Blood Bowl fans and welcome to another Tutor Talks. I'm sitting down with a special guest today. We have the god of ICBBL himself sitting here and he's talking about his favourite race. We have Lucas Caller talking about Chaos Dwarfs. Good afternoon, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening. We'll change the time.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I am doing perfectly. The stars are aligned. The moon is shining. Just how I like it.
Fantastic. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself, or are you too above that as a god of the ICBBL?
Well, normally I would be above such base introductions, but I feel like not enough people understand who I am.
Okay.
So in case any of you base peons do not know fuck. I fucked that up. Shit.
That's fine, carry on.
In case any of you base peons do not know me by name, I am Lucas Caller, president of the ICBBL and the real god of Blood Bowl.
Nuffle, eat your heart out. Okay. Well then, real god of Blood Bowl. This question seems a little bit redundant, but how did you get into Blood Bowl? Do you remember?
It was a very long time ago, back during I believe the very first games. Back when the great ancient dwarven shaman was reading from the tomes found in the tombs of Amorica.
Okay. Yeah, I remember those days well.
Indeed. I believe I was the referee for that game.
Well, that is
interesting. Of course,
interesting.
then, soon after, I did transcend.
I see. So, when you were refereeing these games, did you ever play the tabletop version, or did you ever play the older version of Blood Bowl? I guess you've played them all. You must have done, surely.
Indeed, of course. From tabletop to this FMBBL, whatever it's called. Fumble, I believe.
You really have been here a long time if you don't remember the basics.
Indeed.
Okay.
I have forgotten more than anyone in this world has learned about the game.
Well, that sounds fascinating. Thank you for your lovely insight on your start to the game. And when talking about your favourite race, Chaos Dwarfs, just to confirm, they are your favourite race, yes?
Indeed, yes. I find them quite stimulating to talk about.
Stimulating to talk about, fantastic. Well, when talking about Chaos Dwarfs, what do you think the basic strategy is that you want to undergo when you're playing as them?
Oh, the basic strategy is quite simple. You get your important pieces, and you run them at the biggest thing you can find.
I see. And what do you think that achieves in the long run?
Simple. Death.
Ah, okay. So it's all about murder.
Yes, of course. All Chaos teams are about murder. Either they die, or you die. It's a win-win, really.
Ah, okay, okay. And do you have a favourite Chaos God?
No, I find them all fairly grotesque.
Okay.
I just bask in my own glory. Why do I need to bask in theirs?
Well, surely all of the Chaos Gods are actually reflections of yourself. What else could they be?
They are nothing compared to myself. I am above the Chaos Gods.
I see. So they're a group of people basically practicing hubris.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That's good to know. Thank you. I've always been interested in worshipping a god, and I think I've just found mine.
That is excellent.
Okay. And obviously you've been here for such a long time. You've been doing this for many years, many generations of Blood Bowl. Do you think that Chaos Dwarfs are the best race you are at playing, or do you think there are some that you can play better than Chaos Dwarfs?
Well, to be fair, there is no race I am best at playing, for I am equally proficient with every race I've ever played.
Of course.
And that is excellent. In fact, I have never lost a game in my entire tenure as a coach.
Really?
Indeed.
That's an interesting statistic. I think some would maybe try to argue that, but what would you say to the people who are doubters of such a huge claim?
Well, I would say they wouldn't live very long.
I see, I see.
In fact, I believe my wizards are in preparation to smite them now.
Well, smite them, O mighty smiter.
Indeed. Wait. Ah, there's one over there.
Oh no. Quick, whoever you are, run!
Yes. Excellent.
I was too late. Okay, that's fine. That makes perfect sense to me. And when talking about Chaos Dwarves, again then, who do you think is the key piece in this setup?
Well, to be fair, there is no key piece in the Chaos Dwarf team, for they are, again, they are, as I am, equally proficient.
Okay.
But if there was a single piece that stood out from the rest, it would have to be the Bull Centaur.
Really? That would surprise a lot of people.
A piece shaped in simple perfection. It has everything. It has speed. It has strength. It has the ability to pick up the ball. Maybe. You're not quite sure, are you?
No.
In fact, I bet you're doubting me even now. But let me tell you, it can.
It certainly
And
can.
most importantly, it has the ability to move faster than any other piece in the game, thanks to its unique build of skills.
Okay.
The sprints for movement, the sure feet for stability, and most importantly, the thick skull to make sure that the fucking thing will never die, no matter what you do to it.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm learning a lot during this interview, that's for certain. I'm learning
Indeed, you should be.
not to question the god. That's what I've learned more than anything else.
Indeed, that is the most important rule you will take from this conversation.
Yes,
As will others.
that much I've found out so far. To Lucas, praise be. Right, and when we're talking about the Bull Centaur being the fastest piece, I mean, some would argue that the Gutter Runner is faster. You disagree with this?
Well, the Gutter Runner is a simple rat. It is a base piece, pathetic. I look at the Gutter Runner and I see insignificance. I mean, what do Gutter Runners have that Bull Centaurs do not?
Well,
Exactly.
an awesome hood.
Really. That is all you have to defend the base rat.
Well, I would never question your supreme intellect in this regard.
Of course you wouldn't. And that is why you are an intelligent person.
Well, thank you. That's high praise from a god indeed. Okay, and talking about the other pieces then, do you think that dwarves, hobgoblins, or of course the Minotaur, you can't forget the Minotaur, do you think these pieces all have something going for them as well?
Well, first allow me to bring up the Minotaur.
Okay.
Never take one. They are weak, pathetic, worthless. You do not need them. After all, why would you take something so base when you could just take bull centaurs?
Well, you can have both.
Well, you could, yes, but why would you tarnish perfection, my friend?
Well, yes, that's a very good point. I can't disagree with you there. And what about the dwarves themselves? Because everybody knows that you love dwarves.
The dwarves are... they're not as perfect as the bull centaurs. However, they do have one thing going for them. They are the only piece in the entire roster who have the access to glorious chaos mutations.
Ah, yes.
Indeed, that is pretty much their only saving grace.
Oh.
They are slow, they are weak, they can't pick up the ball, and they're squishy. They're like tissue paper.
I've never heard a dwarf described as tissue paper before. That's a first, and I like it.
Well, compared to the bull centaur, which is of course perfection, the dwarves are mere base creatures, goblins, halflings, one might say.
I see, I see. And when we're talking about goblins, of course, we're missing the hobgoblin from the roster.
Ah, yes. The comic relief of the team. I enjoy them almost as much as bull centaurs, but not quite, for they are, again, they're not quite as fast and as proficient as the bull centaurs. But they do have one key benefit.
on the
It
edge
is
of my seat.
hilarious when they foul.
Ah,
They do the one most important thing you're supposed to do when you're fouling. They look for the referee first.
that's very true. They do.
Indeed, of course, sometimes they might miss the referee, in which case they are kind of a little bit stupid, but they're goblins. I mean, what can you do about that?
Yeah, they are quite renowned for being stupid. It's very true. And you mentioned fouling. Is fouling a big part of Blood Bowl, would you say? Especially when playing Chaos Dwarves?
Oh, of course. All teams of equal measure must foul as if it was a natural part of the game. After all, how are you going to get the Minotaur, the Ogre, the Tree Man out of the game? By punching them in the face while they're standing up? Foolish.
I see. I think we're all learning something from this. So always foul the big guy is your rule, basically, there.
Indeed, if you can get the bastard thing on the ground, foul the, make sure it never gets back up.
That makes perfect sense to me. Perfect sense indeed. So, talking again at the specific pieces, what do you think are some essential level ups for the Chaos Dwarf roster?
Well, one of the first things you should get if your Bull Centaurs ever level up is the skill Break Tackle. Some peons might argue that you should take Block instead, but Block would make the Bull Centaur more like the Dwarf. And we have already discussed why that is such a bad thing. For the Bull Centaur is perfection, and the Dwarf is not.
Yeah.
Why would you reduce perfection?
Why indeed? Why indeed? And are there any other essential level ups for the Bull Centaur, or is it just Break Tackle?
Well, perhaps Mighty Blow to reinforce the Bull Centaur's ability to beat the shit out of their opponents.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Maybe even Juggernaut or some blitzing skill.
Okay, so you mostly blitz with the Bull Centaurs then?
Well, yes, while their ability to pick up the ball is... It's perfect, but it's rather limited in some capacity. They're much more suited to beating the shit out of distant opponents than they are carrying a ball.
I see. I see. That seems to make perfect sense. What about for the Dwarves, the Minotaur, and the Hobgoblin? Are there any essential level ups?
Well, the Minotaur you will never take in any circumstance, so I can feel safe in disregarding them entirely.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that.
The Dwarves are an interesting case, considering that they start with pretty much every skill they need.
Mm-hmm.
Though, of course, Mighty Blow would certainly go a long way in making them more perfect. And Guard, of course, on the Dwarves would be a significant advantage to their team.
Sure thing. And you mentioned mutations. Which mutations would you take on the Dwarves?
Ah, mutations. Well, there are a few decent ones. Perhaps Horns, if you wish to make them more of a blitzer.
Okay.
Perhaps even Foul Appearance, if you wanted to make them a little bit more defensive.
Sure. What about Disturbing Presence?
That would certainly also be a very good mutation to take if you wish to prevent more ball-handling teams from moving the ball a lot. Passing teams will certainly suffer significantly with a couple of Disturbing Presence pieces.
Sure thing. And a lot of people take Claw on a Chaos Dwarf. Do you think that's a mistake?
Those peons are morons.
Those peons are morons.
Claw is a useless skill and nobody should take it, for it has no use in a glorious team of Chaos Dwarves.
I see. That's it's interesting that you have that very strong opinion on Claw, but you're a god. Who am I to question?
Of course.
And for the hobgoblins, do you think they have any essential skill-ups?
Well, if you can get the ability to, I would certainly give them the ability to handle the ball. That would certainly not go amiss when the bull centaurs eventually do slip up in their duties.
So we're talking sure hands on a hobgoblin.
If possible, yes.
Okay.
And most definitely have at least one hobgoblin with 30 player. After all, they have to foul at some point.
Sure, it's their favorite pastime.
Indeed.
And
But perhaps even spend one of your skill ups giving one of the hobgoblins kick if you want to further control where the ball landed on kickoff.
that all seems to make perfect sense.
Indeed.
Okay. And do you think there are any mistakes with level ups on any of these pieces?
Well, I find most peons taking block for their first level ups, and I've already discussed why this is a bad idea in the case of the bull centaur. But, for example, let us take the glorious chaos dwarf, for example. They already have block, but human beyond this.
Okay.
They have strength 3, they have agility 2, they have armor value 9, and they have movement. They have a movement of 4. Which of those 4 statistics would be the most pressing to deal with, do you think?
Well, I would say most definitely the movement.
Indeed. So how would you improve a low dwarf's movement?
Well, a movement stat up would be the obvious choice on a double.
Well, yes, it would be
10.
the most ideal, yes.
Are we really talking sure feet on chaos dwarfs here?
Well, no, I was thinking more sprint.
Ah, sprint. Okay, giving them that extra GFI.
Of course.
Okay.
They'll need it.
Still requires a double, but I can see.
Of course,
Some
but
logic
if you're not lucky enough to get a extra movement allowance, sprint would certainly help.
It may be a second option, sure. It's a rare option, but I mean, you've been playing this much longer than any of us, so who are we to question your supreme brilliance?
It is difficult to sense the nuance and skills in this game, and I understand that some of the peons may not realize that. I'm glad that you reached out to me in order to correct these errors that the peons keep making.
That is exactly why I reached out to you, yes.
I'm detecting a hint of sarcasm there.
No, there was no sarcasm. Your sarcasm detector is way off there. Way, way off.
Are you mocking me?
No, of course not. I would never mock you.
Very well.
Okay.
Let us continue.
Let us continue indeed. So, when playing as Chaos Dwarfs, what teams do you think are good matchups for them?
Well, of course, anything with a lower armor value, the 7s,
Okay.
the occasional ones with 6. Who are those? Are there any with 6 other than halflings?
I think the Snotlings as well have armor 6.
Ah, the ogre team.
Yes.
No, the Snotlings have 5.
Oh, there we go. It's even lower.
Indeed. Any matchup where you can absolutely beat the shit out of your opponents without any risk to yourself.
Okay.
Indeed, I would say if we were to take disturbing presence and foul appearance, maybe even the elf teams wouldn't stand against an army of trained dwarves. And they certainly wouldn't stand up to the perfection of bull centaurs.
No, of course not. Who in their right mind could stand up to the perfection of bull centaurs?
Of course. You couldn't. It is simply impossible.
Do you not find, though, that the plus movement of the elves, the Skaven, these other weaker armor value teams can counteract the dwarves a little bit?
Well, their movement is certainly a problem with dwarf teams in general, to be fair, but a key difference between the Chaos Dwarves and other dwarf teams is that Chaos Dwarves have a higher movement on average. The Hobgoblins move 6, the Bull Centaurs move 9.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, the Elf teams, the Skaven teams, they have much higher movements, but the Chaos Dwarves can easily make up that gap.
Okay, so the Bull Centaur becomes very important in this setup then, in that regard.
Indeed, as do the Hobgoblins.
The Hobgoblins as well, okay. Yeah, they have movement 6 as well, I see your point. And do you think there is a bad matchup for the Chaos Dwarves?
Indeed, the one key problem when it comes to Chaos Dwarves is the lack of mutations.
Right.
The only piece on your team who has mutations is, of course, the Chaos Dwarves themselves.
Yes.
So when faced with teams who also have mutations, say Chaos or Nurgle,
Yes.
you will find that these teams are much more proficient at beating the shit out of you than you are at beating the shit out of them.
Okay, so you think the Chaos Dwarves struggle in a punch-up? Is what I'm sensing.
Well, against a well-developed punching team, they would suffer.
See. So in early TV it's not a problem, but later on it's going to be a problem, you think?
Indeed, yes.
Ah, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And how do you deal with these teams that can outpunch you, do you think?
Well, in the case of teams that can outpunch you, there is simply only one solution.
And that
you
is...
You must dodge. You must take the ball and run it to the end zone.
So your Chaos Dwarves become the elf in a punch-up brawl?
In a sense, yes. They can't outfight people, so they simply get as high of a touchdown difference as they can before all of their players die.
I see. That's interesting. I've never heard that take. That must come from historical Blood Bowl play.
Indeed. I've seen it happen many an occasion.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it. What else can I do? So, talking about Blood Bowl in general now, and of course with your supreme dominance and wisdom in this game, what do you think is the biggest rookie mistake that you see in Blood Bowl?
Now, I have thought on this question long and hard myself.
Okay.
And the one key problem I see every coach make is blocking with 2 dice.
Is blocking with 2 dice?
Indeed.
So you should set up a 3 dice block, you're saying?
No, that's far too many.
Oh, okay.
If you are skilled enough, you only need 1 dice.
Right, that's...
If you are feeling particularly endowed in the genital areas, then you will simply roll 2 dice and let your opponent decide what happens. Of course, that would be a foolish notion, and it should never be attempted unless you are well endowed in that area.
Right.
But in most situations, you only need 1 dice. 2 dice is simply overkill, in my opinion.
So you think it's much better to control the pitch than to have safe blocks?
Yes.
Ah, so...
Why would you need safe blocks? You have Bull Centaurs.
Of course. How silly of me. Okay,
Why other teams of different races would use 2 dice blocks is because they are scared of the perfection that is the Bull Centaurs, but honestly, they miss out because of it. And that brings a tear to my eye.
You really are quite emotional when it comes to Blood Bowl and the one dice blocks.
Indeed.
Well, it's not very often that we see emotion from a god, but there we go. There it is, folks. We have it. Do you need a tissue?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry, let me just find one. I have one here. Yep. Dentist, give me a tissue. Ah, there we go. There we go. That's better.
Thank you very much.
That's better. Okay. So,
Now, where were we?
right, we're carrying on with the next question. The next question is, when you meet a new coach and a new coach comes to you for your divine wisdom, what do you think is the first piece of wisdom that you give him? What do you think is the most basic advice you can give to a brand new coach to Blood Bowl?
There is a lot of talk in the hierarchy of the game, in which the game is all about risk management.
Yes, this is a common thought.
Indeed, but some people take this a little too far. They are afraid to take risks.
Ah, okay.
Now, I have spoke with Nuffle on many an occasion, and to be honest, he's an arsehole.
Oh, really?
Yes, he hates you. He hates everyone.
Should we tell him he's an asshole? Would that help?
Well, no, because he'll still hate you.
Okay.
Knowing what he is doesn't make him favor you anymore. He never smiles at teams, he just frowns.
Okay.
And then he smites them with spell dice.
Well, because you are such a good friend of Nuffle, I mean, what does work for Nuffle? What does he like to see? Is there anything?
Well, no. He'll occasionally grant the ballsy player with success at times, say the good old Hail Mary pass, which never happens.
Right. So fortune favors the big balls, basically, in Blood Bowl.
Indeed, of course. If you wish to succeed in the game, don't be afraid to take the risks.
I see.
Of course, try to mitigate them wherever you can, but you're going to make the risks anyway, and you're going to fail, so why not go big?
Go hard or go home, as it were. I see.
Indeed.
I see. That makes a lot of sense, actually. I'm learning so much from this interview. I should have sat down with you sooner. And what do you think makes a coach a great coach, as opposed to just a good one, or opposed to even an average coach?
A great coach knows how to use their bull symptoms.
Ah.
Now, treat this as a general thing. I'm not speaking in solely a Chaos Dwarf context here.
Okay.
But we've established by now that bull centaurs are perfection.
Yes.
Absolute perfection. And for other teams, while the perceptions of perfection are obviously skewed, they have pieces which could be comparable to the bull centaur.
Okay, so what kind of pieces are we talking here?
Well, for example, the elves and the throwers and their catchers.
Mm-hmm.
The Amazons and the blitzers.
Mm-hmm.
The dark elves and the witch elves. The wood elves and literally every piece they have.
Yes, of course.
These pieces are the most important ones, and if you know how to play these pieces, you know where to put them, you know what to do with them, you will be a wonderful coach.
Okay, so it's learning who does what and how they do it.
Indeed.
I think that definitely does make for a great coach, without a doubt. Okay, so play to your strengths is the basic advice I'm getting from God Lucas Caller here. Okay, and I don't know if your Divine Eminence has had time to look at the list for the league in which you are being interviewed. Have you had the time?
I've taken a cursory glance.
A cursory glance, okay. If I can be so bold as to ask you, having a look at the lineup. Of course, you're not in the lineup. You are above all of the tutors, that's why you haven't been asked to take part, of course. Who do you think is going to be one of the big names in the Tutor League, and which race do you think is going to have the best chance, looking at the lineup as it is?
Well, I must take an extra bit special look at the coaches with 1,000 hours sent over.
Okay.
Especially since two of these three coaches are specialists in the teams they are tutoring for.
That's very true. So we're talking about Oog and Undo, I believe, right now, yes?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. They know, obviously, with the amount of time they put into the game, they know their teams very well. They know how they're used.
Sure.
And I'm most certainly confident in the fact that they know how to teach their students.
I'm sure.
So they'll have an interesting time, I believe.
An interesting time. Okay, that's
But if I may, just for a quick moment, speak about the third man on the list.
Of course.
Mr. Urban Zorro, am I getting that right?
I believe so, yes.
Now, it says here that you call him a bash and fouling specialist.
Well, I don't, but the creator of the league does, yes.
Ah. I find that interesting.
The word foul is jumping out at you, I guess.
Indeed, yes.
Uh-huh.
He is also a chaos and necromantic team.
Yes.
Haven't seen werewolves do any fouling, to be fair.
I don't think I have either. That's one that we'll have to find at some point.
Indeed, perhaps it will be worth looking at. Perhaps Mr. Urban Zorro will inject some fun into this league.
Okay, so Urban Zorro is mostly the entertainment factor for you.
Indeed, yes.
And do you know much about the coaches that have less than 1,000 hours, like myself, or like Fallen Glory, Mint, Smocko? There's a few names there. Varkson.
Well, there is one thing I must point out. Varkson, down at the bottom, he has a specialty in Kemri, yes?
Yeah, that's also one of your favorite teams, or no?
No.
Oh, I'm mistaken in my notes. I'll have to kill my note writer, sorry.
Indeed. In fact, bring him to me. I'll smite him right now.
He's currently on his break, but when he comes back, I'll send him your way, of course.
Thank you. But no, the Kemri are the worst team in the entire league.
Do you want to expand on that at all?
Well, you know how I say that every piece has a special piece.
Yes,
The Kemri don't.
I see.
The throwing pieces are complete garbage.
Right. Why do you think that is?
They have all of the skills to pick up the ball, throw the ball, but they lack in one key area.
And what's that?
The natural ability to do any of those things.
So the stats are the problem.
Indeed, while the Bull Centaurs might not be the best at, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but they might not be the best at picking up the ball and utilizing the ball, at least they have a rather unique fallback in their high strength.
Sure thing.
So while they may not be able to run with the ball, they can certainly punch things from a long distance. But the Kemri have no such fallback. They simply have big pieces that punch hard. Except when they get punched. Truly, the Kemri are the worst, and anyone who would specialize in them is rather distasteful.
I see.
I hope the team he's tutoring dies painfully.
I think he is actually tutoring wood elves, to be fair.
Ah,
So your opinion has maybe changed a little bit about him?
Well, if he's tutoring wood elves, then that team will win no matter what.
Ah, there we go then. That's so he's the shoe-in then, you think?
Well, the wood elves are the best team in the game, aren't they? All of the pieces are excellent. There is no piece in there that would be, well, bad. Is there?
I don't think so. No, I think the wood elves are pretty all round. Yes, I would agree with you.
Indeed. So, despite his inexperience compared to the other tutors, I believe Voxen's specialties will help him with his tutelage.
That makes perfect sense. Well, my fantastic god and savior, this is the end of our interview because the game has reached full time. I thank you dearly for sitting down with me and for, the two of us doing this mutually by our own accord and without you stealing my children or anything to sit me down and talk to you. I'm really glad that happened. Can I please have them back?
Very well. I have gathered everything I require from this little interview. My opinions have been given to the world. You may have them.
Thank you very, very dearly. And
as soon as your note taker is smited.
Yes, I will get him to you as soon as possible, I promise. If it is okay with you, my divine eminence, I will now say goodbye to the crowd. You can as well, and I will talk to you for a little bit and sort out the note-taking murderer for you.
Excellent. Goodbye, peons. I hope you enjoy the murder.
Thank you very much for sitting down and listening to us as we discuss Chaos Dwarves, and we have news from a god. We have his divine wisdom. I hope that it is helpful to you. I will see you all soon, hopefully with another one, if I don't get smitten, that's a new one, smited alongside the note taker. Thank you for now. Bye-bye.